confident he could build the perfect assault craft. For a good reason. He already had one in his boat shed. His own private film archive, rediscovered just a few years ago, reveals that over 10 years before D-Day, by a huge quirk of fate, he had been the pioneer behind a boat that could skim over underwater obstacles. Not Rommel's exploding ones, but the floating logs and mangrove roots of the Mississippi. It had a shallow draft and a propeller and rudder cunningly tucked away in its hull. He called it the Eureka. He was desperate for the American Navy to take notice.
As the designer, builder of amphibious and landing craft equipment, it is proper that our company sponsor this training film. These pictures will show the sturdiness of the construction, so that the men that operate and the men that ride in them will have confidence that they have a strong hull under them that will surmount most obstacles. Bring the boats on in and damn the obstacles.
But Higgins would soon be damming more than the obstacles. For years, he had competed with the big American shipyards. And with their long-established connections, he had found the Navy's door repeatedly slammed in his face.
He was on the telephone most of the time. I'm afraid he was very outspoken. He was very calm at home, but I think he was a lot different when he was fighting for something he believed in.
At his own expense, he arranged for competitive trials to showcase his boat. The Navy was bowled over, but they demanded one major modification. On an exposed beach with machine guns poised to mow them down, the troops and vehicles would have to be out of the landing craft fast. Scrambling over the sides of Higgins' boats would be a death sentence. His boats, the Navy insisted, needed watertight ramps.
Higgins told his guys, he said, look, the Navy's going to be in 72 hours. No one's leaving this office until this ramp is designed. In the middle of the discussion, a young engineer mentioned that he had a cigar box that he had worked on. It was a little contraption, but he said the ramp kind of worked. And Higgins said, all right, now fix it. No one's leaving until the ramp's designed. By that afternoon, the ramp was completed.
Not only could troops storm the beach, but they could land quicker, exposed for a shorter time to enemy fire. And with them, they could land their vehicles for a fast mechanized assault against the enemy's positions.
Watching the trials for the landing craft on Lake Pontchartrain, just outside New Orleans, was a young man whose survival would depend on the Higgins boat.
I had to go past the lakefront just to go home from school. And of course, the Higgins boats would go up to the seawall and they would debark from the boats and storm the beach. And as a kid standing there, probably 16, 17 years of age, I had decided then and there, I don't want any part of that. That looked like a rather dangerous assignment. And with my dumb luck, that's what I wound up getting involved with.
Marvin Perrette was one of over 1,000 coxswains trained to steer a Higgins boat in on D-Day. He can still see why it was perfect for the job.
It is 36 feet in length, 10 feet wide, powered by a 671 Gray Marine diesel engine, and I haven't lost my touch.
But the right design was not enough. The Allies had a much bigger headache. How to churn out almost 9,000 boats in under 2 years with steel in short supply. Higgins was about to pull another rabbit out of the hat. In an act of extraordinary foresight, he had bought the entire 1939 crop of mahogany from the Philippines. Making his boats from wood, Higgins Industries was about to become a powerhouse of mass production.
He
we built boats the way that Henry Ford built automobiles, so that you had a production line going. You had a worker that was putting on a ramp. You had a worker that was putting on a propeller. You had it hitting the paint booth where people are spraying it. You had it coming out the other end. It's loading onto rail cars, and then it's taken away. So it was mass production, unlike any other boatyard in the nation at its time.
Building that many boats could never be kept totally under wraps. Word spread back to Germany. This family man was well known even to Adolf Hitler. It was said he called him the new Noah. Higgins' family now feared for his life.
We had a guard outside of our home here in New Orleans, and he'd come at dark, right before dark, and he would stay till early morning. We always had that guard out there.
Fully aware the Allies were planning a massed seaborne invasion, the Germans struck back. Field Marshal Rommel, a brilliant military tactician, was convinced he could smash an invasion at the outset by pinning the Allies down on the beaches under a hail of gunfire. He strengthened the Atlantic Wall, a line of fortifications that ran from Norway to the Spanish border, with its strongest point the stretch of coast closest to England, from Calais to Normandy.
I came here to Normandy in October 1943. I was still very young. I was 17 years old. I had my 18th birthday here. It was really interesting for me. I'd never seen the sea before.
But the 18 months Franz Gockel spent at the seaside were no holiday. He was one of the 500,000 men pulled in to build the Atlantic Wall. He helped construct one of the thousands of bunkers designed to lock the invaders in on the beach.
This patch of land was called Resistance Post 62. In this ditch down here was my machine gun position. The machine gun was shielded by a couple of wooden planks covered in earth. From here I could see a wide stretch of the beach.
To knock out a German gun battery, the Allies would need heavy armor. If D-Day was to stand even the slightest chance of success, they would now need tanks on the beaches alongside the infantry in the crucial opening moments of the invasion. But the Allies had tried to land tanks on an enemy beach before. In 1942, they attempted a test run for D-Day on a small French port of Dieppe. The operation was a complete disaster. The huge landing craft that brought the tanks to the shore were sitting ducks for the German gun batteries. Few tanks made it up the beach, and without their support, over 1,000 Allied infantry were slaughtered in a few hours. With less than 2 years to go to D-Day, the Allies set about designing a tank that would not need a boat to bring it to shore in the first wave of the invasion, but could swim in under its own steam. But how do you get over 30 tons of metal to float? Nicholas Strausler had good reason to take on the Nazis. He was a Hungarian Jew. The archetypal boffin, he had been chasing the dream invention that would make him his fortune. But as an outsider, he had trouble selling his rather eccentric designs to the closed club of the British military. But he was determined to crack the problem of how to get a tank to float into shore. One of his early experiments was to attach flotation pods to an armored vehicle. It floated, but the pods would make a tank too cumbersome. Straussler wasn't about to give up. He turned to the ancient Greeks and put his faith in Archimedes' principle. Any heavy object can be made to float so long as it displaces enough water, just like a ship made from steel. If he could attach a sturdy screen all the way around the top of the tank that was high enough, he would create a makeshift hull that would do just the trick. Add a propeller, and it would be a tank on land and a boat at sea. He called it the duplex drive, or DD tank. Back in 1943, the DD tank's design was an official war secret.
Would you give me about 30 to 40 pounds?
But today, military vehicle restorer Bob Grundy has managed to get hold of an old set of blueprints. 60 years on, he's going to put Straussler's design to the test. Step 1. Construct the framework for the screen from 26 rubber columns filled with air.
Go on, we'll have a go at sticking the screen up.
Step 2. Fit the pre-made canvas screen to the rubber framework.
How's that?
With a what?
We've got top to bottom and bottom to top here. Are you absolutely sure? Can you read? Never mind. Never mind. Early days.
If the tank was to be of any use on D-Day, it would have to be ready for combat the moment it hit the beach. Straussler's design was ingenious. At the pull of a lever, the air from the columns would be released and the screen would collapse.
By this mechanism here, I will release the air. There she goes. Simple. Very simple.
60 years ago, the youngsters singled out to test a floating tank supported by canvas, rubber and air were not exactly filled with confidence.
It was what, it's been about October or November that we were introduced to the DD tank. There was a Canadian Army officer, captain, who lectured us. They said, we've got a swimming tank, which is a new invention, and you're the chaps who are going to use it in the invasion. We were a bit incredulous about it, so didn't know whether it would work.
They were right to be worried. In secret trials on lakes around Britain, the design failed again and again. Now it's Bob's turn. He has no idea whether his tank will also end up at the bottom of the lake. He's using a Scorpion tank. It's lighter than the Sherman used by Straussler, but it's still almost 8 tons of metal.
Okay.
Tom Wheeldon was one of the first to test the DDs 60 years ago.
Thank you. Now then,
hello, Bob.
You're Tommy, aren't you?
I'm Tom.
Right.
Yes,
What do you
right.
think?
Oh, I'm amazed. I didn't think I'd see one of these again.
Right.
No, 1944.
44?
1944, I last saw one, yeah.
Bob has asked for safety divers to be on hand in case he goes down with a tank.
Okie dokie, Bob, here we go. Stand by. You ready? Driver, slow, advance. Slow. Slow. That's good. Okay, we're now entering the water slowly. Slowly. Okay, the one from the water. Okay, nice and easy now, Bob. Okay, Bob. A little bit of right stick. That's it, it's beautiful. Here we go. Okay, Bob, we're swimming. Bit of left stick now. Left stick. Okay, straight ahead now. We're still doing okay. The screen looks good, by the way. The screen's good. Oh, shit. We've got water coming out the engine bay. How you doing down there? You alright?
Yeah, just, but we've not got time. You're going to push us.
Push us back towards the quayside, please.
You can tow us down there, might be better, quickly.
We're taking in quite a bit of water in the front.
Taking quite a bit of water in.
They've got a matter of minutes to get one very expensive tank to dry land.
The other side, because we have to do a bailout. Do we get on the turret, Bob?
No, I want to be able to better drive the thing out quickly.
Okay, straight advance.
Water. Taking in water.
Yep.
Are we out?
Well, half in and half out.
Are we?
We're on the concrete.
Right, we want the winch.
Yep.
The engine's took water on then.
Neo!
The switch is off.
Right.
Bloody hell, that was close, wasn't it?
The trials on the run-up to D-Day exposed the same flaws in Straussler's design. For the tank to float, not only did its camber skirt need to be sturdy, its undercarriage had to be watertight. Straussler's solution: extra struts for the skirt and buckets of Bostik glue to seal up the holes at the bottom of the tank. When the Allied command agreed to take on Straussler's design, they were taking a giant leap of faith. So were the young men like Sam Handelaar sent to train on the DD tanks under the most challenging conditions.
The weather on the lock, you know, was very choppy. It wasn't, I thought it would be like a little lake, but it wasn't like a little lake. We lost a couple of tanks early, and then we never lost ours. We was quite good with ours. We used to play silly games, make out we was pirates and all this silly laughing.
But the games would soon be over. On D-Day, these young men would have to launch their tanks into a choppy sea and guide them 3 miles into the beach. Straussler's DD tank faced another test. When swimming, the bulk of the tank sat way below the waterline. It was going to run straight into the beach obstacles. Rummel's mined stakes and hedgehogs. Supreme Allied Commander General Eisenhower was about to take a great tactical gamble. He was going to send in the invasion force at low tide when the obstacles were visible. The risks were immense. If the DD tanks did not make it ashore, the infantry would be left to run even further up a beach unsupported and under the hail of enemy fire.